Hello, I'm Rob Doherty and this is the FSTVS podcast, Executive Edition, supported by Liberi Consulting and hosted by Julian Scott, animation consultant for Film London. In this series we'll be chatting to the big hitters in the animation industry and discovering a little bit more about what they do, how they got there, their thoughts on the animation industry, and, I hope, get to meet the person behind that executive title. Today we're thrilled to have Tom Beattie joining us on the podcast. In his 20 years at Tiger Aspect Kids, Tom has been involved in some of the most beloved kids programming out there. With a wealth of experience and a knack for storytelling that speaks directly to the hearts of young viewers, Tom's journey is a testament to the power of creativity in kids media. We'll be exploring his career path, his approach to storytelling for a younger audience, and what it takes to keep content fresh, fun, and relevant in an ever-evolving digital landscape. Whether you're a fan of children's media, an aspiring content creator, or just curious about what goes into making shows that resonate with kids and families alike, this episode is for you. So settle in as we jump into the wonderful world of children's program making with Tom Beattie from Tiger Aspect Kids.
Tom, thank you so much for joining us here on the FSTVS Executive Sessions podcast.
No problem. I appreciate the chat. Looking forward to talking to you and telling you all about me.
It's all about you as usual, isn't it? So you're a BAFTA-nominated Managing Director of the multi-award-winning Tiger Aspect Kids and Family, which is part of Banijay Kids and Family. And in that role, you oversee all development and production. You've been with Tiger Aspect since, I think, 2001. And in 2021, you headed up the newly created Tiger Aspect Kids and Family, and its move to the Banijay Kids and Family division after Banijay bought Endemol Shine, which Tiger Aspect was a group company of. I hope I got all that right.
Yep, that's what I wrote and sent to you, so yes, perfect.
You making a hint that I might be reading this?
Yes.
All right, well, let's move on to less formal matters then. Only a few people will know that you have quite a large collection of eyewear. Would you care to elaborate?
Yep. So this is, well, maybe a few people, because I do have an Instagram account. So Tom's _ glasses _ collection. Really snappy title. But yeah, I mean, look, I've had this collection obsession for about 25 years. So it's been a while. Collect novelty sunglasses. Bought my first pair in America, and then, nothing over 10 quid, anything that looks silly, stupid, plastic. And I've got over 200 pairs, probably more if I'm honest. I have a display cabinet at home. You can see behind me on my Zoom backdrop, I have a new sort of shelves, which are going to be a revolving display. I've got my Olympics and football theme, which I'm going to have to change soon. But it's just something I love. You put them on and you become something different. It's something you can hide behind and you become that character. I'm probably a frustrated performer, I think, but you can put these masks on, these sunglasses, and become someone else. But I've also put them into my work. So my glasses are in Charlie and Lola. They're also going to be in Mr. Bean animation series as well. So that's all about my work and passions and everything that I view and collect. Seep into the work as well. So.
Well, that's fantastic. I have to admit that I actually have two pairs of glasses. One for working. So it's sort of my computer glasses, and one for sort of normal. The only problem is they're exactly the same, and I'm forever going out wearing the wrong glasses. So I think what you've got there is the ideal way to be.
You're not being rude, but that's pretty dull, yes.
Well, listen, I know where you live. I can nip round and borrow something. But before getting into animation, you worked in advertising as an art director and copywriter, and then you moved on to manage production of commercials and music videos. And your bio, which you also sent me, thank you very much, nicely says you worked with brands and bands from Pot Noodle to U2. What triggered the move from a desk job to production?
Well, advertising was a very sort of brief moment in my career path because I studied an arts degree called visual communication. So I sort of specialised in advertising there. And then I won a student AD, a sort of design and art directors award, and had placements at places like Team Saatchi, and met some great people like John Hegarty and who else? Trevor Beattie, fantastic name as well. But it was. Actually met a friend in London who I worked with, I was at Art Foundation with, and she was a costume designer on the Star Wars film, and it blew my mind that there was this job you could do in TV and film and the stuff, because I used to love TV and films, and this person was working there, and I was like, wow, like I want to do that. So I sort of jumped from creating adverts to then trying to get my career started in making adverts, in production of that film and TV and pop videos.
And was advertising a career? I mean, you said you studied advertising at uni. Was it a career path that you imagined from a young age? Back in the day, were there influences from TV, films, or music that fueled that desire?
I mean, no, no, it wasn't. I didn't want to do advertising, and I think that's great. With my son now, who's 15, sort of not trying to put any kind of direction on them just yet. I didn't decide and change until after a degree that I wanted to do film and TV. But no, I grew up in a village just outside Cheltenham in the Cotswolds. I knew no one that was in film, TV or creative. They worked mostly at the government communication headquarters, GCHQ. So they were all sort of clever, secret people and spoke multiple languages. But, what I used to love was, back in my day when I was a kid, like pop videos used to be premiered on, I think it was on Channel 4, like Michael Jackson videos. It was a big deal. Like Friday, 7:00, they used to premiere these 7-minute Michael Jackson videos. And I used to love watching those and recording those. But more so, I loved recording the behind the scenes videos and the making ofs. And I just didn't click that was a job. I was just fascinated how they made these and how the special effects, but I thought it was all magic, and it was someone else did it and I couldn't do that. So it was just a fascination, but didn't realize that could be a career.
I used to do something at my daughter's school which it's called Future Focus, and my pitch was, you want to work in the movies but you don't want to act. And it was the same kind of thing. It was all about the jobs. If you have a passion for something, there's probably something you can do in the movies, which is, fits both things. I mean, God forbid you had a passion for insurance, but obviously they were, sorry, apologies to anybody out there who's involved in production insurance. I'm sure it's fascinating. But it's, you can, if you're, you find insurance fascinating, there's a job for you in TV and film.
Yeah, yeah. Which I did, but no one said that to me, because I didn't know anybody that was a possible job. So
how did you find? You said you met this costume designer. How did you navigate your way into it if you had no pointers, no guidance?
It's classic, I started as a runner, and I think this friend helped me out. They met someone at a party, and they gave me a 1-week work experience at a commercials production company, and so I did a really great job. And then they kept me on, and then I became a freelance runner and working in different places. But again, I was just a hard worker. I did a solid job, and it was a really boring job. They gave me this cupboard full of master tapes and asked me to organize it. But then it was like all these amazing tapes from like videos directed by Michel Gondry, and it was like Bjorg videos and Take That videos, and I was just like a pig in muck, to use a UK phrase, but I was just like, wow, look at this thing. I just was so in love. I just felt like I was in the place I meant to be. And so that whole tape organization I did it the best I could because I loved all these things. But then, from that, I went freelance and did pop videos and commercials and film production. I worked all over the positions. I literally went the filming route side. So I did like assistant, first AD, third AD, first AD. I did then the production side and went production managing and assisting and all those kind of things. And it was just a fabulous time of just being in London, young, going to, getting a call 2 days later, I'm on a set with a band called Garbage and looking after them, or U2, or doing a advert for Heat magazine or something. Just fantastic, exciting variant of jobs. It was brilliant.
So were any of those things that you did, the commercials and music videos, were any of those animated?
No, I mean, animation had not been a part of my life up to that point. I had no involvement into it, even a passion for it. I mean, I loved visual art and I loved film and TV and things, but it all been live action, and that's where I cut my teeth in the industry. But I got my first job at Tiger Aspect as an assistant to the head of animation, and became the production assistant on the first series of Mr. Bean. And that was a step down because I was production managing commercials at the time. But there was a couple of things I really liked about it. One, it was Bean. One, it was animation. It was a visual content, but a different type of thing. But also schedules. On pop videos, I was working, especially in those days, you were doing like a 2-day, 3-day shoot. You started at 6, you finished at midnight. Overtime was not a sort of thing that was, looked after as much as it is now. And then you were finished, and then you found the next thing. But when I was took the job at Tiger Aspect, Mr. Bean, it was a 2-year schedule, and I could see what I was doing in a year's time. It was quite regular hours. I was like, wow, after 2 or 3 years of pop videos and commercials, I was like, yeah, that sounds like a fantastic thing, as well as absorbing in that, fantastic new world of animation, absorbing that craft.
And that craft has led you down a very successful career, because your credits for animation include, I'll start listing them here: Super Happy Magic Forest, Charlie and Lola, which you mentioned earlier with the spectacles, Tinga Tinga Tales, Aliens Love Underpants, Corpse Talk, and probably the best known, which you've also just mentioned, Mr. Bean, of which I think there's like 130 episodes and a special. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've been working on Bean for 20 years now. So,
you said you came into Mr. Bean. You said, I think, as an assistant. So maybe you weren't part of the decision, but I wonder if you you can sort of elaborate on what the decision was, what drove somebody to think, well, here we've got this really, really successful live action TV series and feature films. Why don't we make an animated series out of that?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't around, like you said. I mean, I was around, but not at the beginning of that sort of seed of creating the animation series. But now I know I'm self-appointed Mr. Bean's #1 fan. I talk about Bean every day. I travel the world and talk about Bean, which is brilliant. It's and I'm happy to. I love Bean. It's such a fantastic, iconic visual story project, and to be part of that, I feel really honoured to do that. But right at the beginning was, Mr. Bean was created with Rowan Atkinson and Richard Curtis, created this character that didn't say very much. And the first one was actually Richard wrote a sketch about a man who couldn't stay awake, and Rowan embodied that in a physical character. But, I guess it was kind of looking at how they can give longevity to the brand. There was only 14 episodes of the live action series. It's always kind of that old school, mind-blowing thing that there are only 14 episodes and it's still being played now, 35 years later. And there was a film as well. So it made sort of sense. It was quite a good transition because it was a physical comedy. It was kind of non-dialogue. So animation felt like a real key thing. And there were, shows in a similar vein before, like the Pink Panther, that felt like, there could be a Bean character in animation that could do that. And it was first commissioned for that sort of family Saturday afternoon slot or evening slot. But I think by the time it got delivered, there was the reality TV shows come in, like the Pop Idol and X Factor, and that kind of changed landscape. But, Bean then found its home on the dedicated kids channels on Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network and those kind of places. And then, it's gone from strengths from there, so.
I'm curious because it's the live action show was quite slapstick, and as you said, there was very little dialogue. But creating something or delivering something in an animated form, which has very little dialogue and is very sort of slapstick and physical humour, how hard is that to recreate in animation?
I mean, Rowan is across everything. So, from story ideas to outlines to scripts to voice records. He records all the voices spoke. He reviews animatics, animation. That is a lot of involvement, which we don't realise. But, this is a pure creator-driven series from the core. So, from creating that character over 35 years ago, and that was Mr. Bean was part of Rowan's stage show before it became a character on its own. So, Rowan knows how that character would respond to something. He's always talked about it's a 9-year-old boy in the body of a man, and the way that Mr. Bean looks at the world. And so, Rowan's coming from that live action and stage thing, and we're coming from animation and what we can and cannot do. It's kind of healthy, creative discussions, and our knowledge of that target audience. But, I think we have sort of nuances in Mr. Bean and the way we produce it to sort of deliver that physical comedy. So with Rowan, we definitely do a script, but the script is only for 11 minutes, is 10 pages long. And then for voice records, Rowan will voice record to the storyboard. So we'll have storyboard laid out in front of him, a scene at a time, and he'll have the script on there as well, but he'll ad lib and sort of do that kind of physical noises. And it's got words, and Bean has had more words as the series have gone on, because Rowan's like that character and the way it's had more of a voice, but it's still less dialogue than anything else that's out there. And also what I enjoy, especially we're just doing a new series at the moment, is coming back to watching Bean after other things you've done. It plows its own furrow, whatever the phrase is, because it's not super pacey, it's not cutty. It's very, A to B story, very sort of lets the humour play out and the jokes. And we have this fantastic, gorgeous sounding music from the sort of third party of the Mr. Bean story, which is Howard Goodall, who wrote the theme for Mr. Bean, Blackadder, I can't think, Vicar Dibley, loads of great composition. So he brings something to it as well. But it's just kind of such a, we're not chasing anything, not chasing the zeitgeist. We're doing what it is. It's a classic look, and the cutting and editing of it is also classic. And I think that's why it stayed for so long as it is.
And it must have been sort of, I guess, commissioned back in the day when, a commission was fairly easy to get. Well, not. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it took a little bit of time to convince people that animated Mr. Bean would work.
I don't know for sure the details on that, but I mean, yes, I think there's always the hazy days of easier commissioning and more money on the table for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, with Super Happy Magic Forest, that was a show that I think was financed by sort of 4 or 5 different territories. And looking, at the commissioning climate that we've got now, with streamers cutting back on their orders for new shows, many people say we're going to return to the old way of piecing finance together from multiple sources. Do you think that is where we're heading now? If you had a new show on the table, which I'm sure you have, a new idea, how would you go about raising the finance for it these days?
I mean, we're not heading that way. We are in that way, because of the changes at SVOD. But, I think for Tiger Aspect Kids and Family, we don't always put our eggs in one basket. So we've always done multiple financing for series, because, we have to sort of look at what we're doing and find different ways of investing, and we adapt quickly to the market and where the funding is, which I did with Corpse Talk, with YouTube Originals. There was that pot of money, so I went after that with a project. But Super Happy is 5 different territories. It feels like an old school financing, but I've got that going with Super Happy, but I have other series which are fully funded by an SVOD, and then I have to give away, rights retention loss there. But, that's just the way I've got to look at the company and say, right, okay, we'll do that with that show, and that will be given away, but we'll get a show in production, and this one we'll do this way, we'll retain more, and then, our in-house distribution, we'll get the distribution on that as well. So, I think we've always been doing it this way. It's just that those big players of the SVODs came in and started putting big bucks down, and, it sort of took us away from that. But we sort of kept a wide range of different ways of doing it anyway, without sort of concentrating too hard on that one or following that lead.
I suppose the desire is always to try and hold on to some of the rights, or as many of the rights as you possibly can, so you can exploit stuff yourself. But then on the other hand, with like a full freight deal with an SVOD, cash is king. It's very nice to have money in the bank. And as I said at the beginning, Tiger Aspect Kids and Family is part of Banijay. Does being part of a large media organisation which has distribution and animation studios in its portfolio help?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, no doubt about it. But even I have nuances of changes in the group because, when we set up Tiger Aspect Kids and Family as a separate company away from Tiger Aspect, Tiger Aspect are well known for Vicar of Dibley and Jack Whitehall's Bad Education, as well as Peaky Blinders. So I was part of that company. But I was sort of an odd bod on the end, running a department that no one really knew what I did, couldn't really support me in that way because it was, then I was doing multiple financing within the kids world, but, the grown-up, should we say, adult live action had different, easier funding models. But having moved to Banijay Kids and Family, we have 6 group companies or labels with distribution, with marketing, PR. We have a digital team. I'm now within a supportive group that understand how to make these shows and how to get them made. And then with that, that's helping get shows made. So with Super Happy Magic Forest, it's a co-production with 3 or 4 of our group companies with UK, Italy and France. So it's a co-production there. Each of those companies using their local relationships with their local broadcasters, as well as using the local tax credits. So, as a group, that's a fantastic way to be able to maneuver ourselves to be able to get shows financed,
And where do you look for ideas? I mean, you've been incredibly successful. I have no idea what your strike rate is, and maybe you don't want to tell me.
Yeah, I know, I make a lot of noise, a lot of noise about the stuff, but, who knows, but yeah.
So, I mean, where do the ideas come from?
I mean, everywhere, like our core DNA of Tiger Aspect is comedy with a quirk, and that's what we look for, and that's what we stamp all our projects with. We like to make shows that kids and big kids, i.e. me, laugh. And so, we have a strong track record of doing book to TV adaptations. So Charlie and Lola, Super Happy Magic Forest, Corpse Talk was a comic book as well. We're currently working with Julia Donaldson on her first animated series development at the moment, and we're working with a popular comic book author illustrator as well. But we also create our own IP. So we have I created a live action series for the BBC called Danny and Mick. Tinga Tinga Tales was a fantastic original IP created by Claudia Lloyd, who created Tiger Aspect Kids Department. We took a project to Cartoon Forum last year called Aquila, which is doing quite well on pickup, So we mix again, it's about, yes, we need original IPs because that helps to have a book. But like with Super Happy Magic Forest, I didn't have huge amounts of sales on that book, but it had a fantastic world that I could see 100+ stories coming out of. And so I optioned that book, whereas obviously Julia Donaldson, the book we've optioned, What the Ladybird Heard, has 4 million book sales in 20 territories, and she sold 100 million. So that really helps and kind of a card on the table with the broadcasters. But yeah, again, we mix it up a bit.
And there's a lot of talk, and it's interesting talking about Julia Donaldson and, X million copies sold, because there's a lot of talk in this sort of slightly risk-averse world that we're living in at the moment about legacy IP. Are you, and again, you may not want to answer this, are you finding it easier to get things, a series based on a Julia Donaldson's book away rather than something that's completely original?
I was asked this recently, actually. You used the wrong word there, easier. There's no easier, but, it helps is what I'll say. Because again, we still might have sold all those books, etc., but we've still got to create a great story. And often what I do in development is remove that person, remove that talent or whatever that interesting thing is, just to make sure that we create a story that standalones without that, fantastic icing on the cake. But yeah, I mean, yes, of course it does help. But, look at Bluey. That's an original IP. It's the number one everywhere, doing fantastic. Peppa Pig, original IP. They all had to start somewhere. And, I think as long as the broadcasters can mix it up with original IP as well as, the known IP, it can work, But yes, there is risk adverse for sure.
Yeah, somebody else I was talking to on one of these podcast recently said, and again, very, very successful producer, just wants to do new stuff. He's been really successful in sort of regenerating stuff from a number of years ago and been very, very successful movies. But he says, I really hanker after doing something new again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what we do, mix it up. So it was fantastic to go to Cartoon Forum with a new one last year. It was a medieval sitcom for the 6+, and from an author illustrator straight from scratch. And it's gone down well because it's something different. Again, it's comedy with a quirk. It's what we do. And hopefully that will stick. We can do that as well as Julia Donaldson. So.
And Cartoon Forum last year had that unique event, which was, I'll probably get the phrasing completely wrong, UK animation meets Europe, because obviously post-Brexit, we're not able to be lead producers on a pitch at Cartoon Forum. How important do you think that sort of relinking of UK production to the Cartoon Forum audience was?
I mean, 100%. We need to be part of the team and the group. It's a fantastic industry, fantastic projects, and the UK make fantastic shows. And I think, especially in this era we're in at the moment, where we have to partner with other people, broadcasters have to share. And so we need to be within that group and that place where there is sharing of projects and funding and financing. So I think it's, hugely important. I mean, incredibly lucky that I am within a group that has, it's a French company. We have Italian as well. And so I was able to go to Cartoon Forum outside of that because we led with the French company for the project. So that was one way I could, engineer the group workings to be able to go.
And do you think it was, I suppose, just as a sort of a statement of intent that the UK was there and sort of saying, despite the, in my humble opinion, the crazy decision we made to leave the EU, we still want to work with you guys. And I think the response that we got back from Europe was, and we really want to work with you too.
Yeah, 100%. We have to. We have to work with each other. We're not in a place that we can't at the moment, for sure. So we have to work with co-producers and working with co-broadcasters to get shows financed. If we don't, shows aren't going to get made.
This podcast is made possible thanks to the support of the awesome Liberi Consulting. Liberi offers specially tailored industry-related training courses. Check them out at libericonsulting.com. That's LIBERI consulting.com. You can also find links to their fantastic courses on the Festivus website.
Thinking of the audience a little bit, maybe a lot. Maybe we should think about the audience all the time.
A little bit, yes.
A little bit, just consider them from time to time. A large section of the older kids' audience has already left TV. They've gone over to Roblox and they're on YouTube where they get their entertainment. And there are some challenges for producers with that, commercially, certainly. Now, you mentioned Corpse Talk, which was a YouTube original, and Handy Bean, which I think was Mr. Bean's digital first series for YouTube, Facebook and Instagram. And Handy Beans had over 70 million views. Do you see more opportunities to make series that will premiere or be exclusive to YouTube and on social media platforms?
First of all, fun fact is Handy Bean was like a light-hearted beanie version of Hands in Pan style video, doing things and crafty. Right. And they're my hands, so I do Mr. Bean's hands. So I put on a suit jacket and then act out these bits, and then we cut to Rowan in Mr. Bean costume in green screen, so we put it together. I mean, there was a comment online, I think, saying they're not Rowan's hands; they look far too young, which I will totally take. But also I do Mr. Bean's burps as well. So I do all of Mr. Bean's burps, so his hands and his burps. So I really am ingrained into the brand. That I am Mr. Bean sliced through me. But look. And also I do burps in all my shows, by the way. So it's kind of like my calling card. So I've got a burp in Aliens Love Underpants, Corpse Talk, Mr. Bean, Super Happy Magic Forest, Danny and Mick. It's kind of the thing. My mum's super proud that that's my thing in the shows, all the education, and I just burp in my shows. So it's good. But anyway, YouTube and social media are a great place for like building communities and widening the reach of our brands, but self-funding is currently not a priority for us in the shows. And we did dabble with Handy Bean. We also did some music videos as well, where I took snippets of Mr. Bean's dialogue and themed them and then gave them to a composer to make sort of really fun Europop songs. And we did those as a kind of another spin-off. But at the moment, our focus isn't on that. I'm sure we will get to there. But at the moment, it's we're looking to ways to monetize our content through social media and be at the forefront of everything. Again, that's what's great being in the big group. So, Mr. Bean is the jewel in the crown, especially for Banijay as a whole group. It's the fourth biggest page on Facebook. It has 141 million followers. It's the biggest TV and film brand on Facebook. So, it's kind of the sleeping giant that people don't realize how huge it is. And on YouTube, we have like over 15 channels for Mr. Bean. We have nearly 20 billion lifetime views. And then we've just launched a Mr. Bean animated dedicated fast channels. So we've launched that, and I think got 76 live streams in 31 territories in 8 languages of Mr. Bean 24 hours a day on platforms like Samsung and LG channels and Rakuten. So again, right at the forefront with Bean. And because Bean is such a huge social media star, we're able to use that as a group and test it in different places like TikTok and be there before it's really monetizes.
That's fascinating. And I don't know when you signed your contract for your burps, but do you get residuals?
No, and it's not on my LinkedIn yet, but I need to, because I could have a good long list now on my CV of burps. But I think I do think in my contract, everything I do is signed off. Ideas, voice, the whole thing.
You've been bought out, baby, haven't you?
Yeah, totally. I'm a corporate contract, absolutely.
This has got nothing to do with burping, but over the years, Tiger Aspect Productions has been nominated for Diversity in Media Awards as a production company and as an organisation. And I think and I hope that animation is one of the more diverse sectors of screen production, but there's obviously always room for improvement, especially in attracting and retaining talent who identify as being neurodiverse. And I still think that there's some talented people who are probably off our radar and don't feel particularly comfortable to engage with us as an industry for various reasons. Do you think there's anything that we can do as a sector to address that?
Yeah, definitely. I think there really is. Absolutely. We try and reach as wide as possible, but obviously, we're posting on festivals, for example, and other places for jobs. But it's just trying to reach out to people. I wonder if, in lockdown, from the sort of more working from home scenario, that is going to help more people who are neurodiverse, so that they don't feel they have to travel in. That can be a problem for people, or working in big teams and groups. So working at home in their own setup, but still having contact could help certain type of people. It's not good for other people. I feel sorry for some of the juniors in teams where, you don't have that, team in the office working together. And, I met up with one of the assistants on Mr. Bean for lunch the other day because, they're not learning by osmosis or hearing things that is not part of their job. Zooms are so functional. It's an hour, you join, you have a little chat and then it's straight in and you finish. But a meeting in an office, you can on the way walk in and talk to people on the way out and find other stuff. So, but as a group, we're definitely at the forefront of just kind of trying to push, encourage and support diversity within the company. So we have, separate groups and things that we have set up that encourage those groups, those minorities to meet with other people who feel similar, and be able to, within that company, feel like there is support network. Once we can find those people that you can work with us, that we don't reach out to or get caught in our reach out for jobs, etc.
Yeah, we did a little bit of work about neurodiversity animation at Film London, and one of the things that I discovered certainly was, the classic job advert, which is, want someone to join our team, must be, a team player, good collaborator. And there's lots of people who, identify as being neurodiverse look at that and it puts the fear of God into them, because they're not necessarily a good team player or a collaborator, but they're supremely talented.
Well, I mean, I think in the creative industry, there's a lot of neurodiverse people. That's part of who we are and our makeup. We are, I think, I'm a creative person, and I think we all have some kind of elements of us that, our brains are wired in a different way for sure, so.
Yeah, and you said you are a creative person. I don't doubt that for a second. But you're the managing director of a business. And how do you balance out the sort of the creative and the commercial? How do those two things mesh together in your head?
It's interesting because, growing up in the industry, and doing all those different roles, I was always creative. I had that creative degree and everything, and visually I can look at something and have an opinion, but I had to sort of bide my time and bite my tongue because, there were so many other people involved. So, Charlie Lola or whatever it was, I was working on, my role was to do a production. And I think that's quite important as a bit of advice for people, is sort of just, knuckle down, do a great job, and the opportunities will come. And that's what happened to me for sure. But, and so now I'm in this, I'm the creative lead for the company, so I'm looking at projects, finding projects, generating what's the next thing, etc. And I'm also involved in the creative lead of those projects. So, for example, on Bean and Soup Happy, I look at all the scripts and that kind of thing. And it is a lot of work to do for sure, but I have to, let detail go. Maybe people listening to this who are working with me maybe not agree with that, but I do. I can't give stupid amount of notes. It's about kind of a top view of going, actually rereading what you're saying is that I wouldn't have done that, but it works. So that's fine, and that will work for that show. But it's just making sure that the core of what I wanted to do when I developed that project, because I develop projects and then bring in producers to then create those series and deliver those series. But it's because I've lived and breathed that for Super Happy. I was on it for 5 years, through the ups and downs of financing and working with different people, and then finally getting to production. I know that project, and I worked with the author, illustrator, and want to make sure that we're delivering what I said to him that we would deliver. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely more creative leaning than I am sort of the managing director leading, but I've still got a commercial sense of what I want to do. And, I oversee the Bean as a brand as well. So making sure that, all the revenues and things we can do, and reporting back to Rowan and his agents to make sure that we're delivering what we should be doing for Bean and keeping it going for another 30 years.
That's fascinating. It's always been because I'm probably slightly the other way. I'm more sort of business than creative, but yeah, it's fascinating to see how you mesh the two together so well. Now you've been with Tiger Aspect for quite a while, 23 successful years. Just looking back at your career and your time at Tiger Aspect and the various roles that you've had, what do you think the best advice was that you were ever given?
It's difficult. I hate to know how many years I've been there, because, you often wonder if it being the same place for such a long time is a good thing, and it's quite a rarity as well. But, I've had such fantastic projects. I lucked out from starting at the beginning on Bean, and a fantastic boss then, who had got some great projects and great energy. And, there's Carrots just kept me there, and got bought by Endemol Shine, Tiger Aspect, and then Banijay, and then things change and move, and just keeps you alive. But advice, I mean, to enjoy yourself, really. We are in a fantastic industry. We work with some great people and some really fun, silly projects. We're not intense brain surgeons, and so we should remember that and enjoy that process as we go through it. Sure, there are stressful moments and pressure points, but it should be fun as along the way. We are making fun stuff for kids to enjoy. We should be enjoying that as well, and I think through our enjoyment that comes through from what we're making, which goes onto screen.
And would you encourage, based on what you've just said, I think I probably know the answer to this, but would you encourage someone to enter the industry now?
Definitely. I think, it's a fun place to be. I mean, and it's so, the range of projects you can work on is just huge. And it's just, such a joy to, whether it's adapting a book and changing that for TV or something new, and just and the elements and the stages. I'm passionate about it. I love being in a sound studio and choosing which fart should be louder or wetter or whatever it is. This is not a grown-up job really, but I am a grown-up kind of. But it's just it's. My wife's a teacher, and standing up for 8 hours a day in front of kids that don't want to be there, and you've got to sell your soul, and it's just super hard work. And I'm in an office where I can have a chat about what they watched on TV last night, or look at this amazing thing, and just have a shared passion for visual. And I think totally lucky to be in that kind of world. And so I think absolutely I really recommend it to someone. Should come into it, definitely.
And finally, just before I let you go, what glasses are you going to wear today?
I don't wear sunglasses. That's the thing. But just whatever mood I'm in. It's summer, so probably ice cream glasses are probably the ones I want to wear today. But it's so weird. I don't really wear sunglasses out. It's kind of, I don't walk around with a pair of ice cream sunglasses for sure. The ones I really want, I'm super into table tennis now, and I can't believe there's not any out there. But table tennis sunglasses, like the round with the handles and the ball, I haven't found them yet. So I might have to go into sunglasses production to make my own, just for that sole purpose. But we'll see.
Tom, thank you so much. I know how busy you are. I really, really appreciate you finding the time to chat today.
No, I really enjoy it. Thanks for asking me. I really appreciate it. And, I think what Rob does with FSTVS is fantastic. And I appreciate what he's doing to keep that glue of animation community. And he's been doing it for a long time. And that's brilliant. So I'm really happy to support this totally.
And that's a wrap on today's episode. A huge thank you to Tom for sharing his insights into the magic behind children's television, and for the personal shout out at the end. I've always said he's the nicest man in kids TV. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, leave us a review, tell your friends, come to the FSTVS events, all the usual stuff. And as always, stay tuned for more conversations with the amazing people that help shape the world of kids' entertainment. Until next time, keep imagining, keep creating, and keep listening. Bye for now. As always, a massive thanks to Julian Scott for hosting. Information about Film London can be found at filmlondon.org/animation. Well worth a visit. And once again, a huge thank you to Liberi Consulting for all their support in making this podcast series a reality. Check out their industry-related training courses on the FSTVS website now. Last but not least, thanks to Odilia Sickinghe for her amazing editing skills.